Every man on the planet has two functioning nerve clusters on his chest that connect to nothing. No mammary glands behind them, no purpose ahead of them. Just nipples, sitting there doing nothing evolution ever asked them to do. And this isn't a small biological footnote. It's one of the most asked, least understood questions about the male body, and the real answer has nothing to do with evolution removing something useless. It has to do with evolution never having the chance to build it differently in the first place. If you're into how your body actually got built the way it is, subscribe now, because this channel breaks down one of these every week. Let's start with the timeline, because you can't understand the nipple without understanding when it actually forms. Every human embryo, male or female, starts out on the exact same developmental path for the first 6 weeks. Same tissue, same structure, same blueprint. Nipples form in week 4 or 5, long before the embryo has decided what sex it's going to be. At that stage, there's no Y chromosome instruction telling the body, skip this step, you won't need it. The body is just building a standard human template, and the template includes nipples for everyone. It's only around week 7 that the SRY gene on the Y chromosome kicks in and starts flooding the embryo with testosterone. That's the switch that eventually builds testes instead of ovaries and shapes the rest of male anatomy. But by then, the nipples are already finished. Already wired with nerve endings, already sitting on the chest. The male body doesn't lose its nipples afterward because there was never a mechanism designed to remove them. Nothing in human biology runs backward like that. So that explains why they exist. It doesn't explain why they stayed. Here's where it gets interesting. Evolution doesn't just tolerate useless traits out of laziness. Every trait carries some biological cost, even a small one: blood supply, nerve tissue, skin surface. If male nipples were actively harmful or even meaningfully expensive to maintain, natural selection would have found a way to shut that developmental step off millions of years ago. It hasn't. Which means biologists had to ask a much stranger question: is keeping the male nipple actually cheaper than evolving a way to remove it? Biologist Jay Gould was one of the first to push this argument seriously back in the 1970s and 80s. His answer was blunt. Male nipples aren't an adaptation. They're a byproduct, what he called a spandrel, a structural leftover from a shared developmental process, not a trait selected for its own reasons. In his framing, asking, "What is the male nipple for?" is the wrong question entirely. It's like asking what purpose the colour of blood serves when you cut a red fruit. It's not the fruit's blood, it's just what happens when you slice something built from a common template. That answer satisfied the "why didn't evolution remove it?" question, but it created a second, weirder one. If male nipples are just inactive leftovers, why do they still respond to touch at all? Dead tissue doesn't need nerve endings. Vestigial doesn't usually mean sensitive. This is where the story shifts from embryology to neuroscience. Male nipples aren't just anatomically present. They're wired into the same nerve pathway that runs through female nipples, connecting to the spinal cord and up into the brain's sensory processing regions. Studies on erogenous response, including research summarized by sexologists like Debbie Herbenick, have found that a meaningful percentage of men report nipple stimulation as directly linked to arousal, in some cases activating overlapping brain regions to genital stimulation on fMRI scans. That's not decoration. That's an active, functioning sensory circuit sitting on a structure evolution technically didn't need to keep functional at all. So now there are two separate forces layered on the same 1 square inch of skin. One is pure developmental leftover, tissue that formed before the body knew it would be male, never worth the cost of removing. The other is an accident of shared wiring, nerve pathways that got laid down early and never got edited out, so they still fire the same way they would in a body that was going to use them for lactation. Put those together and you get the real answer. The male nipple isn't a mistake, and it isn't hidden purpose either. It's a leftover blueprint with the wiring still live. Not because your body needs it, because your body was never given a version of the instructions where it didn't come standard. Which is the strange part most men never think about. Every time a chest gets touched, hit, brushed against a shirt, that sensation is running through a nerve pathway that was only ever supposed to matter for half the population. Your body kept building the same template it always builds because 6 weeks into your existence, there was no version of you yet to build anything different for. You've been carrying a female developmental default on your chest your entire life. You just never had a reason to notice. If your body has been running on leftover code this whole time, imagine what else about you hasn't been fully explained. Subscribe and I'll keep unpacking it one video at a time.